Hi everybody, this is SableDragonRook, you can call me Sable, and this is going to be a full speedrun guide for The Last Guardian any percent. Realistically, you can use it for any of the categories, the tech is essentially the same, but we're going to be focusing primarily on any percent. You may have already seen my guide for beginners who are just kind of getting into the speedrun, but once you feel like you're ready to do the speedrun sort of as a whole with all of the tech, this is the guide that you're going to want to check out instead. You can use a capture card or you can capture from your PlayStation 4. Either is fine. Obviously with a capture card you have a little bit more flexibility. If you choose to have splits, you can base your splits off of the ones that I have over on the right. I have sort of simplified mine. So those will give you kind of a place to start when you're creating your own splits. But of course everybody is different, so what splits are going to work for you might be different than the splits that work for me. So I guess, just use these as a starting point, and then from there you can create the splits that you need. Other than that, I've got Mort Cam in the bottom. Not a requirement. I would like to believe that it helps. But let's get going. I will do my best to describe everything that's happening, sort of as it's happening. We might occasionally pause and, take a closer look around at what I'm doing. But timing is going to start when we hit yes from this particular menu. So let's go. Make sure you skip the first cutscene, because it's, a completely pointless way to spend time. It's not required for this category. So the first thing that I'm going to do is jump over here onto this slanted rock. That's going to give me enough verticality to make it directly onto Trico's hip to pull the spear out. You can walk, close to Trico's side and hop up from the front of Trico's thigh, but occasionally you'll miss if you do that and you'll land, back down on the ground. So for consistency's sake, we usually just want to hop off of that little stone ramp, because that will get you just high enough to land essentially directly on top of the spear that's in his leg. And if you're holding the circle button as you're already jumping through the air, the boy is basically going to grab as soon as humanly possible, which is, exactly what you want to see. I'm already rotating the camera. There's a short period here where you can move the camera but not the boy, so I'm going to use that to get kind of in position. There are multiple ways you can solve this section. So, find one that works for you. The way that I do it is to grab this barrel. When I fall, it will automatically come out of my hands, and that's fine, because it's going to roll down the stairs to a location that I kind of want it to be anyway. I hop over the door. Right there, you can kind of see why that's not necessarily always the right choice, because if the boy stumbles like that, you're actually going to spend more time, than you would have if you just waited for the door. You can stand in this patch of grass. That's about as far back as you can stand to give Trico that barrel. And I want to be looking at Trico. Just to, make sure that I have my pathing right and everything. He needs to launch it in his mouth twice before you can approach. If you approach before he has done that, he will drop it. So make sure that he does 2 launches before you get too close. Before he notices you, basically. 1, 2. Not that we were close enough that time for it to matter anyway. I jumped away just because it's a little bit faster than waiting to turn. Come and stand sort of on this dark line where it gets dark instead of, the light from the ceiling. Once he's done 2 launches, we can hop up onto his back. He'll turn his head, eventually. And we can grab this lever. Pop the lever before you do the spear, so that you don't have to do it later. None of this is skippable, so we just kind of have to hang around. When you're trying to pull the lever, you might notice that Trico's ears are kind of pushing you out of the way. His ears are a solid object, unlike a lot of the rest of his body. So do your best to not place yourself in a position where his ears are going to swivel and push you down off of his shoulder. If his head hasn't turned, so that the back of his head is facing you yet, it's best to stay a little bit far away until he turns, so that you're out of the way of his ears when he turns. And that'll be true, you know, in a couple other places as well. And when I say controllable Trico for this split, I mean, you know, the moment that we can gather our thoughts, get control of the boy, and call Trico. Once we can call Trico, he's kind of under our control. He'll be back there taking his armor off. You have essentially 3 chances to do this little skip, which, you know, involves you jumping off the top of this rock and trying to go sideways and grab that ledge up there. Very challenging. It doesn't usually happen in my run. I would say watching Satsu do it is probably your best bet for if you would like to practice this. And as you can see, Trico's here now. It's worth it to try to do it, even if you're not confident with it, because you have to wait for Trico anyway. So, you know, it's a good way to spend your time. And it'll get you up to that ledge before Trico, if you happen to actually land it. Hop up onto Trico's back. You don't need to climb all the way. You can just hop that last distance. Grab the barrel, doesn't matter where you put it. I usually just take about 1 step to the side, even though Trico kind of pushed this barrel back in here for me. Because, you know, he's a troll. Wait till you get to the point where the mist vanishes, and then you're safe to reset. Usually that's about 4 shimmies, but the boy's position when you come in will kind of make that vary a little bit. We can run over the edge of this without interrupting the boy's flow of motion, so we will do that because, you know, shortest distance between any 2 points is a straight line. And same principle there. You know, we can run off of the side of that sarcophagus thing and then again across the side of the pool without making him stumble. It takes a little practice to understand exactly where you need to be in order to do that. So, you know, give it a few tries until you figure out where the boy can step that he won't stumble. So obviously, you know, if you're at this point, you've probably played this game a couple times. You know what's happening here. We're getting a cutscene. So let me use that opportunity to briefly explain a little bit more about hopping up onto Trico's back. If you use the triangle button to do a jump animation while you're climbing Trico, you need to be careful because I wouldn't say a majority of the time, but a lot of the time, if you're not quite high enough or if Trico isn't in the right position, you'll just jump and the boy will sort of splat and faceplant. And that spends more time. So if you're trying to, you know, jump up onto Trico's back so that you can immediately zip to the top and be standing on him instead of climbing the rest of the way, be sure that you are close enough to Trico's back that, you know, that's going to happen, or else you're just going to spend more time. I recommend waiting until you can see Trico's nose. I saw his foot there, that was good enough. We did actually get very lucky there. Trico decided to walk the wrong direction and he stuck his butt out before his head. It's a little bit faster. You can run across this using this pathing so that you only really have to make very crucial jumps instead of, you know, jumping every time you come to an obstacle. Stay close to the wall on the inside just because that's the, you know, the closest path. Get to the ledge, reset. If you land so that the boy is essentially halfway between landing in the water and landing on that ledge, he'll grab the ledge like that. However, that can make Trico's lightning here a little bit finicky. We actually got really lucky that he chose to do it that way. If you're having troubles with Trico's lightning in that particular spot, like he won't shoot, usually what's happening is the game is confused. Little boy, could you not? Usually the game is confused about what kind of lightning he has for some reason. It'll it'll default to doing his plasma lightning from later in the game. So usually what you have to do is shine the mirror for about 5 seconds, stop, and then shine the mirror again. And that'll kind of snap him out of that. It usually only happens if you do that little skip where you land, you know, on the side of the platform. The game, I guess, just doesn't really want you to do that, and so it gets a little confused. I recommend not calling Trico here because it will force the camera to look at Trico. Try to aim this barrel back into this little crevice. I kind of didn't, so, you know. It just makes it harder for Trico to grab. And you want it to, you know, be harder for him to grab because that makes him stand there longer trying to get it, as opposed to finishing his jump onto this platform, which can, you know, make you noodle around. As you're jumping onto Trico in the lake, I would definitely recommend trying to jump onto his shoulder instead of onto his head unless you're feeling really confident. A lot of his head is not actually a thing you can grab, a lot of his face. So you're most likely to just, you know, kind of jump into his face, bounce off of it, and then he walks away without you and you're kind of trapped being really slow in the water. So it's usually best to just grab his shoulder, make your way up onto his back, hop onto his head, and then hop off. You don't have to run after him. I do. It doesn't make a difference though. When the checkpoint resets after this cutscene, you will be in the same spot regardless. So if you need to take a break for whatever reason, you know, you don't have to run. Feel free to leave for a minute.
Otetara lastuzi, ala castacaro, inokia, ata duro kutuzi, yano mot catunek, au kuzi.
Continually getting the boy to drop down like this will enable him to run instead of, you know, shimmying along the ledge. That will happen a lot throughout this run. You can also do jumps. I personally don't recommend it because it's much more dangerous. Try to jump straight off of the end of that instead of, you know, trying to stick close to the wall. If you stick close to the wall, the boy will probably catch on the wall and he won't go far enough to grab the chain. Same principle with this one. Try to jump straight instead of close to the wall. So for this one, the most consistent way to do this is either to not call Trico at all while you're on these chains, or to call Trico essentially right here before you get to this piece of chain, and then as soon as you touch down. Head over to the second orb, get your mirror out as soon as possible to interrupt whatever Trico is doing so that he doesn't follow you closely. You can jump next to the orb here, as you can see, to make it up onto the pillar. You don't need to jump onto the broken part, which will cause the boy to do like a long grab and hang. However, it is a little bit more likely if you choose to jump over by the orb that the boy will slip off and fall and die. So, you know, do that at your own risk. You can still definitely make it with an ideal Trico, even if you choose the slower option, which is jumping at the very tip of the pillar. As soon as you get up top of these stairs, you can start calling Trico. He did a good job. He followed far enough behind that he was able to just back up instead of having to turn around. That's exactly what we want. If you're a little slow, he'll just be, you know, essentially a little bit further forward, and you'll have to wait longer for him to turn around and get back to that spot. I usually spam call through here and then kind of hide myself behind this little rock on the ground. Because we can't control Trico right now, so we need him to come as close to this left-hand wall as possible. And kind of wedging ourselves in the corner is the best way to get him to do that. Once he's close to me, I'm actually going to grab this leg. Just because it's easier to grab to me than the other one. You can grab the other one if you want. Plus, you know, you don't have to... If you grab the other one, you have to spin the camera around to look back toward the wall, so... If you're having a hard time getting the boy to jump straight up, it's probably because you're pushing forward. Let go of the forward button and, you know, just hit up, and usually the boy will grab. Ledges like this can pose a problem like that. This quick chain climbing is tapping the joystick up repeatedly. Your choice, you know, whether you would like to do that or spam triangle. Once you're past those stairs there, you can go ahead and reset. That was where one of my old splits would have been. Don't split there. Be careful how many times you call Trico here. You might be stuck in a call Trico animation when you get to the point that you use the mirror. Which means you'll have to stand and wait in front of that door. So, you know, don't necessarily spam call. Be a little bit cognizant of what you're doing. You can stand anywhere. He'll jump no matter how close you are to him, but I usually come and stand back by this little blob in the ground. Just because it's kind of easier to see him from this location to be sure, you know, when he touches down. Because as soon as both of his feet have touched down, you can reset. If you want to be safe, you know, wait until he's walked towards you a little bit. Don't call Trico as soon as this starts, or you will make him turn around. Call him once you're under his head, so that he doesn't turn towards you while you're behind him. Because then you will have to, you know, wait for him to turn around again before he starts to follow you. What you do here to get him close to this wall doesn't really matter. Just, you know, spam things until he walks as close as possible. This is entirely up to him, how soon he does this. So the only thing that you can do is get him as close to the wall as you can by calling him. This Trico is being, you know, kind of a butt cheek. Sitting down and walking backwards and such, but he's looking up, so now we know that he's gonna go. I'm gonna stay underneath his ear, so that when his head gets close to the ground, I will be able to just drop off onto the ground without having to jump. So his head gets close, I hop down, and I head right for this eyeball, push this off. Whether Trico decides to stop and look at that cage on the left is, you know, essentially chance. Best you can do is just keep going, keep calling Trico, and hope that he doesn't stop there. If he stops there, you're basically looking at a 45-second time loss. He's looking good, he's not angry, so it looks like he is just gonna follow me. So go ahead and run up, hop up onto here over in the corner. This just makes it a little bit easier when he comes over to join you, that you grab onto his shoulder to start climbing instead of starting all the way from his foot. And again, you know, if you're gonna do these jumps onto his back, make sure that you're confident you're actually close enough that the boy is gonna stand instead of just splat. And as you can see, you can do the same thing with his head as well. Come out sideways, jump straight, and then hit right. That's the best way to describe how to grab that lower platform. Jump just straight off of the left side of the platform. Don't, you know, try to do directional inputs right away. Once you can see the gate opening, you're good to reset. Trico usually will sprint to come meet you. He's typically pretty quick. So you can just finish up calling him, give him that little second to catch up with you. And then, you know, do the mirror. Get to these stairs right here, and then you're safe to reset. That will bring Trico to you, through the door. Now we just have to essentially putz around to get Trico down here. Make sure that you keep calling him. You know, keep his attention on you. And then these two little rocks that have a small space in between them is basically where you want to be standing. That's where Trico's going to be facing here in a second. So just line yourself up with those and, you know, hang out. You know, the reason that we want to be standing there is so that Trico doesn't have to hop around or move his body at all in order to actually catch us. You know, he just has a straight shot. Skip the cutscene. Usually the way that I will do this is to run on the side closest to Trico's back. You can run around the side where his feet are, and that can occasionally actually let you clip through the railing and down onto his tail. But the problem with that is that if you miss, you basically just land on the railing, and it's very slow to get back off of the railing. So, you know, instead, I usually am more than willing to just hop onto Trico's butt and get onto his tail that way. If you're careful, you can hop up onto there without the boy doing any hang or grab animation. I didn't do it there, but it is definitely possible. So just do like a step up instead. So the principle behind why this upcoming skip works, usually just called helmet skip, is because Trico doesn't actually dislike the armors. He dislikes their heads, their helmets. So if you keep that in mind, you know, you'll always be able to predict where Trico is going to be focusing during a fight. The intended way to solve this puzzle is, you know, for Trico to fight the armors, you pet Trico, he calms down, and then you get him to stick his head through a hole. But actually, you can actually see the hole right there. Actually, there are scaffolds up in the ceiling and a couple places that you can walk. So if you can get Trico to stop and stand in this room while he's still angry, you can avoid having to, you know, calm him down and pet him. Which is great, because petting him takes a long time. So the way that you're going to do that is you're going to take advantage of Trico's, you know, fixation on these helmets. And when Trico starts this fight with the armor, whenever possible, you are going to grab a helmet and take it into that room. In an ideal world, either he only leaves the one helmet, which you grab, or you put a helmet in that room and then you toss the rest of the helmets off the bridge so that he doesn't focus on them. And then, you know, he's going to come into the room following the helmet that you put in there, and you'll be able to climb him. If he's focused on other helmets, you know, you can either just abandon the trick, or you can just keep spam calling him and hoping that eventually he pays attention to you. So we'll see how this goes. Step into their light to wake them up. You can totally just like wait back here. You don't have to go up here. I usually just do, because it just helps me to set up the way that I want to be standing, but typically the safest way to do this is to run past this guy and stand over in this corner, and then just let Trico do his thing. He actually stepped forward, which is not super necessarily what I want. But, you know, this guy's on the ground, so I'm guaranteed to have a helmet because I'm literally ripping it off of his face. I'm gonna set this helmet back here. It doesn't look like any helmets are left, but there might still... Yeah, there's still one. So I'm gonna try to get his attention away from that helmet and onto me. He might have just yeeted it off the cliff, which is good. I've never had him turn around there, but you know, Trico will be Trico. So I'm just trying to get his attention, and you can see he looks and he's like, oh, you have a helmet. So stand close to this door, wait until he gets close to you. He's gonna take a couple more steps, there we go. And then you can drop it and get the heck out of the way. He's gonna be super angry at that helmet, so you can go back, grab his leg, and that will prompt him to start, you know, shaking like this. But once you're up on his back, you can actually hop up over here and leave him without doing the required petting. Obviously, you know, there are faster ways for that to happen, but that's a very variable skip, so... You can hop across here, you can run across here using the tapping method, tapping the boy down. As you can see, the risk of jumping is that you miss, and that takes a little bit of extra time. You can actually reset once the boy starts to climb over this thing. You don't actually need to jump off of it. The place you want to go is behind you, so go ahead and hold down while that is loading so that the boy will start to move. Trico will lose interest if you stop calling him, so be sure to keep calling. I mean, he'll make his way up eventually, but eventually is not really how speedruns work, right? Make sure that you step out of the way so that you're not in the portion of this that he's about to break. So he's gonna do his script, right? He's gonna run down, hopefully go around that structure, run back, and then go around this pillar with the ball on it to the right. I usually stand essentially right here, just to kind of encourage him to go around this the correct way. But, you know, as you can see, he's not. He'll do whatever he likes to do. So he'll run back. At this point, I usually wait for him past this pillar. He's always kind of got his attention on me, which is why I try to lead him, you know, in the direction that I want him to go. Hopefully, he will not break here. Hopping onto his arm before he starts his little shouty at the tower thing can sometimes break him, so we'll see. If it breaks him, I'll show you how to undo it. So he starts shouting, you know, he's looking up at the tower. He did not break. If he breaks, which is just shouting repeatedly, you'll have to hop off of him and stand on the ground and call him a bunch. So now, from behind his horns on his head, wait for him to jump. If you would like to try vine skip, you know, get on your feet as soon as possible. And, fail, because that's just what happens. You know, you would get on your feet as soon as possible, try to land on the roof, and then once you're in the roof, you know, try to slam the jug closed. You essentially have to do vine skip right on the first try, or else it's not worth it. If you need guidance on how to do vine skip, since obviously I didn't do it there, just hit me up and I can give you some more details. So the jug that I pushed halfway. You can see if you look carefully at the tracks that there are little bumps that it's not allowed to roll past. So just roll it towards one of those so that you're sure it's not going to roll back in the direction that you just took it from. And then you can go ahead and leave it, climb onto Trico. If you climb Trico fast, as you saw, you know, you can grab the vines before you're meant to. Once you're at the top of the stairs, the top of these stairs, you're safe to reset. if you do vine skip, if you succeed in landing on the roof, you know, closing the jug, do not reset at the top of the stairs. The reset no longer works if you succeed in vine skip. So you will just have to call Trico and wait. And for this bit, you know, when you're out on that skinny part, make sure that you go a fair distance from Trico. He won't jump if you're too close, so make sure that you go some distance away. Do your best to get to Trico's back as soon as possible. He can clip you on the sides of the hallway, and that will pull you off of his back and he'll leave without you. And whether he does that, you know, for the first half of the jump or this half, either way it's a pretty damaging, you know, reset to have to redo. Whether you get off of him now or later, you know, doesn't really matter. You can ride him all the way to the pond. It's just kind of whatever you want to be habit for you. For me, it's usually just waiting until he hops down, and then hopping off of him and just kind of chilling on this platform. Again, because I want to lead him, I want to, you know, have him looking in the correct direction to do his next thing, which means I should walk in that direction as well. So he'll lay down, he'll take his little bath here. And as he does that, the other Trico is going to be, you know, coming out onto this. You can already see that she's here. Trico's gonna look up. It progresses fastest if you look up with him to look at her. And then, you know, we're gonna wait to calm him down. He needs to be calmed down or he will never move. You can calm him throughout the rest of the game by calling him. You don't need to pet him. And then once you see his back straighten out, like that, that means he is calm. And you can go ahead in here and get essentially as far back here as you can, and then you'll be good to reset. That'll bring Trico to you. You can use this little thing on the side to ramp up so that you don't have to do one of the hanging animations. You can just, you know, jump, as I did. You can do this from either side. I did it from the far side just because that's kind of what I've been doing lately. As soon as Trico starts to flap his wings, you can come and meet him. Do not wait until he starts to jump, or that will be too late. Do it as soon as he starts to flap his wings. And try to meet him either on his head or on his shoulder, so that you don't have to climb up his tail. No need to call Trico for any of this, he doesn't need to be with you. That jump was just to get me over that little thing in the floor that would have made me stumble. Get the boy to hover, you know, on the edge of that platform, and then you're good to reset again. Best way to do this is to get Trico's attention, hop down, and stand next to this little piece of rock. Trico will come down, and then you can essentially just jump forward onto him. And that should put you in a pretty solid position for climbing up to do this. He did unfortunately jump, so I'm going to take this one instead. You can get to where you're trying to go from any of the pillars in this room. So if he jumps, if he gets too far away from that left-hand pillar that we were trying to jump on, it's no big deal. You know, just take this pillar instead. Or whatever pillar is close to you. We were trying to get over onto this pillar, doing the same thing. But, you know, he did jump away and made that a little bit harder, so. You can just run right past these guys. Hold circle to grab the ladder, and then right when they get close, you can hop. And that will ensure that you get away from them. Throughout yourself close to this left wall, just because that's closer to where you want to be next. The lever is on your left there. As soon as the boy pops that lever down and the armor starts to come to life, you can reset. It's a little bit of RNG, you know how these guys come out of the wall, so just do your best to adapt to where they are and run around them. Sometimes there genuinely just is no path. That's not your fault. You may be able to hear my stomach rumbling. The Trico's tail is stuck underneath the door. Just, you know, pull it out and just make sure that he has begun the fight. And then you're good to go. I typically stand right about here because the armors are going to be following me. And so I want them to be in front of Trico. If I stay back by the lever, the armors will go back there as well, and that will force Trico to turn around. We absolutely want Trico to finish all of these armors before he comes down the hallway to the right. So hopefully he remains focused. He did. So that should be all the armors that are done for. Now we are going to be calling him to try to get his attention down this hallway. Hopefully he is following. He is. Stay to the side. Don't go too far toward that armor, or Trico will not smack it right. This reset is spooky. Basically, if you hear the music stop, you're good. But just, you know, real quick, a little comment. Let's just hang on for a second. If you come out to here when that armor is standing there, the armor will notice you and he'll step out of his position. And that means that Trico is no longer necessarily mapped to smack him right in the head and kill him. So it's best to stand, you know, kind of back here. Don't bother the armor and just let Trico come forward. That increases his chances of smacking that armor and killing it in one hit. So for command skip, you know, this is kind of a notorious part of the run. Set yourself up next to the pillar and then just wait for Trico. I usually stand right about here so that I have a good view of Trico. He'll show up eventually. There he is. There are essentially two ways that you can do command skip depending on what Trico gives you. As he steps next to where you were just standing, interrupt him by jumping onto his leg. Get up onto his back and then up onto his head. Once you're on his head, pet him so that he sits down. And after some time of doing this, he will lift his head up like this. A little bit more, please, buddy. There you go. And then you'll be able to make it to this platform. As you can see, if I would have stayed on Trico, he actually would have lifted his head so that I could have gotten onto the stairs. That's the ideal situation, and if you would like to chance it, to see if you can get Trico to do that, you're certainly welcome to do that. But the camera decided to move because Trico was jumping. So once you get up onto that pillar, I'll show you how to do it again. You are going to want to aim for the center of the stairs across from you and take as far and as high of a jump as you can. Because as you can see, the boy doesn't necessarily recognize that there's something there that he can, that he can grab. So you want to be sure that you're as high as possible, or he's just going to slip past it like he did the first time. Ideally, you get command skip the first time because this setup where Trico is when you reset is a little bit less ideal because as you can see, he's closer to the pillar, which causes issues like this where he just keeps, you know, phasing through the pillar and pushing me off. But, you know, the more chances that we get to see this, the more chances you have to kind of understand what's happening. I'm going to actually intercept him a little bit sooner to stop him from being quite so close to the pillar. I was actually quite lucky there. He decided not to drop his head down. So, aim for the middle. and just jump as high as you can. And that's going to be command skip. Hopefully yours goes a little bit better than that one. But, you know, it happens. It's good to show off what to do if things don't go right as well. Alright, so pop this down. You're going to want to be calling Trico while you're running down the hallway toward that lever, because it'll stop him from jumping and doing all sorts of nonsense in that room, so that he comes down this hallway faster. Once he sticks his head out of here, you're good to reset. And the reason that we reset there is because, you know, he's super excited to see you, and he's actually a little bit distracted when he comes out of that hallway. So we get him to go forward, and we kind of break him of any distractions that he had. A clean slate, if you will. I suggest pointing straight across instead of using the jump command, or else he might jump to that pillar, and that's slower. Once you're over here, as soon as you can get purchase on Trico's back, use the jump command, and hopefully he will understand. Whenever Trico does these jumps, you don't want to be too far onto the front part of his face, or else you'll just kind of noodle around. You want to be back a little bit behind his horns. You can actually jump this if you're brave, or you can run down the platform if you'd like. As soon as you stand, you can just take a straight jump forward and wait to splat on the ground. As soon as you splat, you can reset. That's going to, you know, prevent you from having to climb down the sides and take a bunch of extra time. You don't actually need to call Trico. I do, mostly just because it's habit. As soon as you walk past the end of that thing, you can actually let it go. It's gone far enough. I try to keep these guys in the center, so when Trico, you know, fights them, hopefully he hits both at once. He didn't do a very good job that time, but his fights are super variable, so. Once you've calmed Trico down for a little bit, you know, and he's getting ready to calm and the music is dying down, you're good to stop. And reset. You can point Trico forward while he's still shouting like that. He will notice, even though he's not directly looking at you. Usually he'll start to run all of a sudden. This time we were actually very lucky, and he didn't. And that enabled us to get up onto his back, which is great. If we can be on his back before he gets over here, we can capture his attention and get him to go up. Otherwise, he'll stick his head into this little gated place, and it can take him a little bit longer to realize what you want. For any time when you're jumping up ladders, it's really just a matter of practice, remembering how tall the ladders are. You never want to jump such that the final jump lands you at the top of the ladder. That's a slower animation. So you always want to stop... You okay there, boy? You always want to stop ladder jumping just shy of the top of the ladder, or else you're going to do that long hang animation. For this one, you're not able to jump straight forward. You'll actually have to jump a little bit to the side, or else you're going to land on one of those beams. I was a little bit unlucky, and jumped too far to the side and landed on a beam anyway. But as before, as soon as you splat down, you know, you're good to reset. Hang to the left, back behind this little, you know, pair of boards that make an X shape for a little bit, so that these guys can be out of your hair. And then just stick real close to this guy. If you happen to wake them up, you know, you can totally reset. You can also do the old strat of, you know, hopping down to the far platform and running underneath this platform. If you look at some of the obsoleted speedruns, you'll be able to see that happening. And again, you know, I'm trying to get everybody's attention to sort of cluster them up, but they decided not to really listen, so... Pick a guy to fight, Trico. Getting grabbed can be a strategic choice. Getting grabbed forces Trico to come and help you. Bye! Which, you know, can encourage him to fight if he's not fighting. For this one, we definitely want, you know, to wait until the music stops. Because, especially if Trico shoots a guard off like that, without killing it, sometimes the guards will fall fast enough that they fall past the death floor before the death floor recognizes that they've fallen, and then the fight will just, you know, never end. In which case, the reset won't work, which is why you want to make sure that that fight music has ended. We gave Trico the jump command, not the forward command, to get him up here. The forward command works as well, but I prefer the jump command, personally. Hold X, let go, and push forward. Hold X is how you get down ladders like that. Holding X stops the boy from grabbing on every single rung, and pushing forward helps him to grab again so that you don't fall far enough that you take, you know, fall damage. As soon as that thing vanishes, you're safe to reset. I usually come all the way over here just to kind of get Trico to walk as far as possible before he gets distracted with this jump. And then I'll once again give him the jump command, not the forward command. And then just kind of get up on him as he does this. He'll basically solve this puzzle by himself, so you're almost better off just letting him do that than confusing him, potentially, with commands. If you want, you know, just give him one jump command right here, and then wait for him to finish this puzzle. It will take him a little bit. There really is no such thing as an immediate jump here. Turn to the left and give him a jump command if you feel like giving him commands, but as you can see, he doesn't really care, so that's entirely up to you. Be careful of where you're positioned. His ears will push you here as he turns. So, you know, be careful that you're not in a location where you're going to be pushed off. Turn to the right and give him a jump command. Again, he doesn't really care. He'll do this anyway, so you don't have to. If you would prefer not to take the chance of confusing him. This one he typically does need help with, so as soon as he lands, jump command once again. Doesn't matter which door he hops into. Either is fine. You don't need to give him a jump command for this, and in fact I would recommend that you don't, because he is already, you know, starting to do what he needs to do. He'll walk through here. I prefer to be a little bit further back on his back because this door is going to push me around. And if I'm on his shoulders, I could end up like under his chin or something that sucks. The place you want to be is to your left, so left facing jump command, and that will get his attention up onto that pillar. Up, buddy. You want to be on his head because once he gets up here, he's going to be struggling. And if you're on his head, you know, you'll be able to, hopefully, take this jump before he quite finishes what he's doing. Hop off of the part of this that's broken, onto this. That was not really how I wanted to have that happen, but one shimmy over, fall down, and push toward this pillar. It's fine that we didn't make it, but that would be, you know, how you get the fall damage cancel. As you can see, even if you don't get the fall damage cancel, it's fine. You're able to reset and be down here. So either you'll land on top of the pillar and you won't take that fall damage and then you'll be able to hop down, which is about 1.5 seconds faster. Or you'll land as I did and, you know, be able to reset. I suggest dropping this to the right of the door, just to kind of keep it out of the way. Drop this as soon as you can, and then take this and throw it through the door. Do not pick up the bar that holds the door closed, and then just drop it without moving, because that will actually place it directly back into the thing that was holding it. So you do actually need to move to the side a little bit in order to drop it on the floor, or else the boy is just going to put it right back where he found it. As you can see, you can step up into this little broken section of the stairs, if you would prefer not to take the entire stairs. Personally, I don't give Trico any commands. He's usually very good about just starting this on his own. So instead, I push against the door so that as soon as the door opens, I'm able to be underneath it. The camera is going to pan, so make sure that you are ready to just tap the camera button and get it back onto you, or else the boy's going to start running sideways. Pushing is faster than pulling in this particular situation, even though that's not usually true. So go ahead and push that, get behind it, and push this off as far as you can. Ideally, it's further away than that, but you know, we'll live with it. Trico is gonna drop this. You can push for a little while as he starts to focus on you, but once he lines up with the door, it's best to stop. And then he'll start to try to charge the door. You're giving him the call Trico plus X command, which means stop it. And then you're giving him the interact command, which is call Trico plus circle. Not a big fan of where the boy currently is. He's going to be pushing that sideways. So I wanted to be a little bit, you know, more centered behind this so that I'm pushing it forward. Once Trico starts to interact with this, you don't have to do anything else. It's best to leave him alone. He will do the long pull. He's going to shake it a little bit, and then he's going to set himself up. And here we go. Do not stop pushing. Don't stop pushing for the entire time after you give him that interact command, or you won't have the momentum to get that under the door. Once he comes over here, as soon as he starts sniffing, we are going to give him interact, call, and that will get him off of that axle. As he's coming through, I typically give him the go forward command. Whether or not it works, you know, kind of varies. And then you can be up here and pulling this out. You, the boy, passing this block, essentially, is what causes the cutscene to trigger. So, if you can't do what I just did and hop from Trico's head, you know, up to here, stay on his back and hop off sideways. Because if you're on his head will push you past that location, and you'll trigger the cutscene while you're still on him. So either use his head, you know, to hop to the platform without him, or stay on his back, and once he hops up, hop off of his back to grab the helmet. Either way. Being able to break the eyeballs during the cutscene is just a matter of practice, a matter of, you know, kind of where you need to be pushing. So give that some practice, and then, like I did, you'll be able to... I didn't split, ignore me. I didn't split after the door puzzle. You know, after some time, you'll be able to break that during the cutscene as well. Be patient with Trico on those glass pieces. He doesn't always come off of them very quickly. Very occasionally, you'll be able to hop off of his head and, you know, just progress on your own. But it's kind of a crapshoot, honestly. The right-hand side is what's safe. As soon as you're standing over here, you can go ahead and start getting Trico and try to jump across. He occasionally leaves if you don't call him, so best to be in the practice of calling him so that he doesn't just completely walk away. So pay attention for when his animation sort of hitches. It's gonna be right there. That's when it's safe to jump. Anytime before that and he's gonna miss you. At this point, you know, whether you call Trico or not doesn't really matter, because he's going to be afraid of this eyeball anyway. You can push this all the way down, but I recommend just getting it over that hill and then ending up, you know, back here. Otherwise, Trico's gonna follow it, and he'll actually need to walk backwards before he's ready to catch you, as opposed to, you know, him walking and then stopping right here. So as soon as he turns towards you, you're good to go. Just push up the entire time, and the boy will get essentially as high as he can. The cutscene will eventually stop you from moving, so, you know, it's not your fault that you can't get higher. As soon as you're on the flat plane of his head and can jump off, go ahead and grab this. You don't need to throw it. I'm gonna throw it, just because. But you don't need to. You can actually just grab it and then drop it again. So you have a finite amount of time, obviously, to get back down. Trico's back, essentially a little bit below his wings is where you want to be. And then he will hop up and grab, you know, that plank to pull himself up. And then once he hops up, you will be able, during the cutscene, to hop off of him. So right about there, just, you know, hop straight back. Keep running. If the camera gets too far, you can tap the camera and it'll, you know, drag it back towards you. So that will let you move during that cutscene. As you can see, it's possible to run through that hallway without tripping if you follow kind of a specific routing. Once you get to that ledge, you're good to reset. I recommend resetting, even though technically you don't have to. Because that will make sure that the guard in the back here has a spear instead of a sword. I'll have a spear because you reset and put Trico behind you. If you choose to just do this without resetting, he'll still have a sword and he'll chase you around and you need to, you know, kind of distract him, so. Push this backwards, swing around, go forwards, hold circle button the entire time. The boy will jump and grab on his own if you continue to hold circle, so you don't need to, you know, come off of the ledge and try to jump and meet that thing. He'll just do it on his own. Push this, make sure that Trico comes into the room, because sometimes he can get stuck in this hallway. You coming, buddy? Alright, looks like he's coming in, probably. Yeah, there we go. And then you are actually able to jump across these. If you miss, it's alright, you know, the boy will still grab it, probably. But that is the fastest way to go. Trico will take care of his fight on his own, and then you can just kind of get his attention, get him down into this hallway. People do this different ways. The easiest way is probably to do this, which is, you know, to run up as you continue to call Trico. So Trico's going to be coming out on his own, and then as he comes out, you're going to be up here in a place where you can jump straight onto his back. You can totally wait on the ground and climb up him instead, but you know, you kind of need something to do while you're waiting for Trico, so you might as well just climb up. So, you know, here we have this eyeball. He's gonna be upset about it. This will not progress until the little boy says, like, oh, it's so far away. So once we get that, we know that Trico is now calmable, and we need to spam call Trico. I suggest pointing directly sideways. Don't point forward, don't give the jump command, because Trico needs to pivot directly sideways, like he just did. If he takes a step forward while trying to fulfill those other commands, he'll get angry at the eye again, and you'll get yourself kind of into an infinite loop. So just press sideways, directly sideways, and you should be good. Sometimes Trico will still be a butt anyway, but, you know, that's Trico. You can drop down on this. It does not need to tilt downward for as long as you think it does. And once again, you know, I didn't split. I'm not used to having these, like, simpler splits. So... hop up as soon as you can. The boy's shimmy is a little bit faster than his hang, so... For this bit, climb up here, gently tap to the left, so that the boy, you know, stands up on this, and then just jump forward, and hopefully you grab that. It does very much depend on what kind of momentum the eyeball has. If the eyeball is swinging in the wind, sometimes the boy will not be able to make that grab, so you might have to take, you know, multiple tries. But the good news is, if you fail, you'll fall down to the bottom, but the boy will grab. So you don't typically take a death from attempting to do that. And that prevents you from having to solve the puzzle the intended way. For these platforms, you can totally, you know, drop the boy down, and then he will run across them. I recommend hanging out right at the side of this thing, trying to hop down and pushing backwards so that you don't grab the chain. Grabbing the chain and then getting off of it can be a pain in the butt. But we hop down here because if we hop from the top, which you can totally do if you're not confident in doing what I just did, if we hop from the top, we'll get a slow-mo when we hop on the Chico's back, as opposed to from here, where we either get much less of a slow-mo or we don't get one at all. I typically find that pushing forward is the best way to get Trico to respond here. Pushing jump can also work. It just, you know, he tends to respond better to forward, in my opinion. Give it to him once, give him a chance to do it, don't spam it or he'll get confused. And as you can see, I'm not giving him any commands here because usually once he starts this, he's pretty good. Like, he'll do it fairly well. I went up onto his head for that final jump because it's easier, you know, to jump from his head than his back onto this. Grab this on the left side of where you can grab so that you don't have to re-grab it once it starts going off the edge. Stand next to this doohicker. That's a good place to stand. Wait for Trico to fully stand up again, and then you can run and try to meet him. If you go sooner than that, you're likely to get either miss or get kicked off. So yeah, just stand next to, you can see one of sort of the bracings on the side of that bridge. If you go back and look. Stand next to that. Wait for Trico to break through the bridge and then completely stand up again. And then run and meet him, trying to land on his chest. And that usually gives you pretty good positioning. For this bit, we're going to skip a cutscene by hanging down off of this little platform, essentially as soon as we're able. Basically by that first break, you can see on the edge of the ledge there's a little bit of a a crumbly bit on the outside of the ledge. Fall down there, get all the way so that you have a straight shot running forward, and that means that you have gone far enough that the cutscene won't trigger. Then you can climb back up and continue on. If you jump into this room, the boy will still be able to move while that cutscene is playing. I typically use the Call Trico button to get rid of those sigils because it's one of the only buttons that doesn't actually make the boy do anything. You know, obviously if you hit jump or something, you're going to be spending a lot more time doing an animation that you don't need to do. So I usually just rely on the Call Trico button. Try not to hit those guards in the hallway. If you hit them, it will aggro them onto you and they'll follow you in here, which can make the jump out of this once you hit this lever a lot harder, because they'll be standing there waiting for you. Sometimes the guy from before will be here, depending on how fast he walked. You can either jump in front of this guy, or hit the shove button, which is square, to kind of dodge behind him. Whatever works best for you. Dodging behind him can lead to you running directly into him and getting caught, and jumping in front of him can lead to you jumping off of the platform. So, line yourself up with this, take a run, and you'll be able to hop halfway across that before it falls. You can jump across these, you can run across these, whatever is best for you. Line yourself up with the right-hand side of this pole. Hit jump, and try to land essentially right there. Once you land there, you can hop straight over to the ladder, and that will force Trico to come over to the drawbridge, even though he wasn't ready. So, you know, to summarize, try to get the boy kind of on a diagonal on the right-hand side of that piece of scaffolding. Make a jump. If you're having a hard time not grabbing onto the thing that the boy is supposed to grab there, tap X to basically say let go, and then he won't grab it. And then land on the top of the drawbridge. We're gonna get that cart going, just because we need it later. Grab this barrel, hang a little bit to the left. It's just a little bit of a clearer path that you won't spend animations tumbling. Off to the left, walk up this, to the right, to the left. And then, hopefully, the boy will step up. Now, the location for barrel skip is essentially right... Come on, little boy. Right here. It's a little bit to the left of this cube. It's not in the center. And the camera kind of needs to be toward the side, as you just saw. So just keep shimmying the boy there until he steps up. If you're really having a hard time and it seems like he's just not doing it, step backwards a little bit, kind of do a little circle, go back down, and come back up. And sometimes that can help.
Akunati sodu, atanakam, agikunak inaik, aturikono. Iana hotu kuyatudu, atedikatu, arietiak, agaraho.
And of course, you know, as we get past drawbridge skip, as we get past some of what I would say are the more challenging strats in the run, obviously we have the Discord if you need help with individual strats. I am happy to walk anybody through any of the strats in this run. So, you know, if they don't make sense to you, or if they're just not working for you, just hit me up, and I would be happy to help you out. I usually let go of this right when Trico's back makes that door bounce, because that tells me that he's in here. There are holes in the floor over here, so be careful not to fall into them. And obviously, you know, Trico's gonna be following eventually. Once he gets pretty close to you, I usually have the best success with, you know, just kind of getting close to him and telling him to jump. Not to go forward, but to actually jump. Sometimes he will jump in place, because this, to be fair, is a very confusing, you know, part of the game. And sometimes he will actually do it. Right now, it's not entirely clear. It looks like he's doing it, so I'm not going to give him a command again, because that will just serve to confuse him. Always give Trico time. I know that that's a hard thing to say. As soon as you touch down, you can reset. I know that that's a hard thing to say in a speedrun, like, just give him time, but a lot of times he will be kind of in the process of doing what you asked him to do, and then if you give him commands, you'll confuse him. And it'll just slow things down. So usually, just saying forward Trico here is enough to get him to do this puzzle with pushing the bridge down. Typically, I will crouch here, just kind of stay out of the way of his feet. And then as this bridge comes down, you know, I'll essentially try to be out on it and getting him to go forward so that he comes forward as soon as possible. Very, very occasionally you will get very lucky and he will choose to make that jump without watching this scene. It's possible. It's pretty rare, but you know, it can happen. Which is part of the reason I was, you know, pushing him so hard to go forward to see if we could get that to happen, but once he hears this other Trico, forward is enough to get him to go. And then I am going to give him the forward command again, and then once he starts doing it, I'm going to go over to his head. As he spins his head, I'm going to be kind of keeping track of what I can see down below his snoot. And as he chills and doesn't move so much, I'm going to hop down to the rope. The best way to grab the rope, because it's easy to miss, is to try to line yourself up so that the boy's shoulder is directly next to one side of the rope, usually the left if you can. And then, as the rope gets closer, start to pan the camera up. Like, give it a couple taps up. If you continue to face straight down, the boy will usually go through the rope. So the camera kind of does matter a little bit. And to be clear, when I say give the camera a couple taps, I mean like this. Just like tap the joystick, the camera goes up a little bit. That's what I mean. You don't need to just swing the camera like as far vertical as it can go. Just give it a little verticality, a couple taps, and you'll be good. Hang a little bit right on these vines, just because that's going to be in the direction that we need to go next, but don't go all the way to the right, because there are some right-hand vines that are going to end essentially right there, you know, and you're not going to be able to go where you need to go. So hang out here, situate yourself onto this so the boy's arms are out, slam him down, and then keep tapping him down very quickly. You do not have a lot of time during his run before he switches to his normal arms out animation. And your goal obviously is to run all the way across this rope. I typically keep the camera straight down because that helps me to center the boy. If he goes to either side, he will fall off of the rope, and then you'll have to climb back up and you'll lose the chance to run the rest of the way. As soon as that thing goes off the end, you're good to reset. Let yourself fall. You don't need to hit any buttons. Once you start falling, hit up or sideways, and that will cause the boy to grab this instead of the chain, which is a lot easier to deal with than trying to get off of that dang chain. I usually use forward for this. You can use jump. They basically work essentially identically here. So no worries, you know, just whatever makes more sense to you in this situation. He responds equally to both. I am choosing to be on his head at this point, because the next jump that he makes, I'm gonna want to jump off of his head, so somewhere between when you give him that first command and, like, right now, you want to be, you know, making your way to his head. And you do not need to give him any more commands, as far as, like, Trico, jump up here, or whatever. He'll do it on his own. So there's that eyeball. That's what we're trying to take care of. Start calling Trico right about here, and I use the look at Trico button so that I don't lose track of where he is as he goes back down the tower. This one doesn't really have a good indication of when he's ready, so usually I just wait for him to vocalize once like that. Drop and push towards him constantly, like don't let go of the forward button. Keep pushing forward. He'll grab you. Don't stop pushing forward. Like, just push forward this entire time, because that will also enable you to grab his tail. Then, you know, manipulate the camera however you need to make sure that the boy is climbing again. Hop off here, and then as soon as the boy touches that piece of platform, you can reset. It doesn't even matter if you touch it and then fall. You're also fine if you fall. As long as the boy touches it, you're good. Trico is really, really not listening, so there we go. Try to get out to this side of his body, just again so that you're not close to the wall, where he could potentially sort of skim you off of his back. And then we're just gonna let Trico do this. There is no need to give him any commands. That will just confuse him. I recommend not standing in the middle of his back where the boy can actually stand. That can pose problems with Trico sliding out from under the boy and the boy not grabbing, so you always want to be in a position where the boy is, like, visually you can see him grabbing. So you can see, you know, I actually did intentionally stay too close to the wall just so that you could see what happens. Like, it's a fairly decent probability that Trico is going to bash you against the wall and you're going to come off of him, which is what you saw. And that's why you want to be constantly adjusting your location so that you are not really close to walls when Trico is walking past them. Just keep calling Trico, and while we're calling Trico, I'm gonna eat some Pop-Tarts. Because I'm hungry. So just keep calling. He has to go through this whole process where he, you know, tries to figure out how to get you down. So he has to do this. And then you can encourage him to jump up above you, which is the next step of the process. For this part of the process, I usually put the camera in front of me like this. Hang to the left, don't jiggle. That kind of just makes it harder. His tail will come to you. So drop off of it. Hopefully a little more elegantly than that. And just try to come to the other side. Once you can wrangle the camera to see where you are, stand on this little corner, wiggle on the corner, and then jump straight. And if you are lucky, the game will not kill you. And you'll get vine skip, so. Barrel skip here is literally just following this pillar on the ground and then hooking a left. If it doesn't work, just, you know, go back down the pillar and try again. Sorry, I was eating a Pop-Tart. Drop the barrel straight down. If you're lucky, it'll land in Trico's face. That was actually pretty close. He can't quite reach it, though. Best to put the barrel kind of behind that block there. That's almost fully intact. At best, it will completely stop the barrel from rolling. And at worst, it'll at least slow it down and give Trico time to grab it before it rolls away. Trico will do all of this on his own, so just let him go. he makes this jump, he will need your help. Even though he's looking at it, he will need your help. This is one of the few times when his body language is a little bit deceiving. So we'll let him make this first jump, just because it's easier to give the next jump command from his back. And then once it appears that he's ready for that, we will go to his head and go to the right a little bit, just so that we don't get shoved into a corner. Which we did anyway. Hopefully, eventually, Trico, yeah, will move his head a little bit to the right, and we can make this jump. The safest place to make that jump is into the corner. Not this corner, but the corner on the other side of the pillar. Because that corner will kind of kill your momentum and make sure that you make it. Any place after that, your momentum might be high enough that the boy... What on earth is Mordicam doing? That the boy just, doesn't grab. Don't get caught by that guy. I was kind of still focusing on Mordicam, so... Don't get caught by that guy. Make sure that you knock both of them down. If you want to be cheeky, you know, you can try to do 3 hits and knock one of them off. But as long as both of them go down, Trico will come over. I see that this one isn't broken, so I'm definitely gonna chuck this and break it. I do not want that particular... Okay, give me the freaking helmet, okay? This place is such a nightmare for Trico. Bye. Unsure whether everyone is dead. Alright, the fight music is over, so it's safe to reset as long as that happens. And then we're gonna be over by this door. For that fight, the only tips that I can really give you are make sure you knock both of the shield guys down. Even if they pick their shields up again, it's okay. Trico will still come over. And I guess, aside from that, try not to stand... I know it seems safe, but try not to stand to either side out on that platform. Because a lot of times, you know, you'll get caught there by armor, and then Trico will tap the armor won't die, and then he'll be stuck in that corner. And Trico can't reach the armors when they're there. So if you stand there, you're just tempting Trico to shoot an armor into that little corner by the railing, and then not be able to fight anymore. And it takes a long time to sort of get that back on track. So if you need to be out of Trico's way, stand behind him, down, like, opposite of where the shield guys were. You only need to lift this up high enough for Trico to start going under it. You don't need to fully wait for him to do it. I know that it's cruel because it has spikes on the bottom, but, you know, not really sure what was happening there. Jump when you're still a little ways back, not from the very edge, and that will kind of put you in a nice position as far as landing on Trico's side instead of in front of him. And from there, you can hop off of his side and down here to push this. if you jump, like, from the very edge of that platform up above, you'll actually be really close to the front of Trico's face. And sometimes you can just straight up miss, or, you know, sometimes you're just, like, not in a place that you really want to be. So you push that thing forward until you see the ground flatten out. That means that it won't roll backwards. Get up on Trico's head and over here. Only one jump on that ladder because 2 jumps would put you into that bad animation, that hanging animation at the top. Just keep pushing forward. Don't let go of it once it goes down this hill. Keep pushing. Don't call Trico for the time being, or you'll kind of mess up his pathing up top. Pushing the box is the fastest way to get into the water, but once it's in, pulling it is by far the most accurate way to deal with it. Try to avoid the pieces of debris in the water because they will create a little bit of friction that slows you down. And we're gonna plant this box right next to this pillar in the corner. Now that we're over here, we can call Trico. Try to get his attention. Don't give him commands or anything, just call him and wait for the game to give credit that he has broken through these things. Anytime, buddy. And this isn't usually Trico's fault. This is usually the game, you know, not giving him credit for standing on those planks when he obviously was. So once he's on them, jump back in the water. Now you can be calling Trico. That's fine. We're going back over to this platform because we need him to turn around up top and look through this hole. Once he's looking through it, you'll see that his tail starts to come down through the hole. Maybe. There we go. Look away. Do a little figure 8. Hop in the water. Why? Probably because, as with a lot of stuff that Trico does, he does it better when you're not watching. So, think, for example, of, come on, drawbridge skip. Little boy, what is the issue here? Also, let me just give you a little tip here. Thank you. Hang over on this side, close to this piece of scaffolding, because his tail's gonna rotate. And as soon as you touch the ground, you can reset. So anyway, like with drawbridge skip, right? The game kind of has to force Trico to do something in that situation, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, even if Trico wasn't ready or he wasn't positioned to do it, he will do it when you're not watching, doing drawbridge skip. And the same principle applies here. Like, it's almost like Trico's tail doesn't have to obey the laws of in-game physics as long as you're not looking at it to see it cheat. So, the tail will get down there faster if you don't look at it. Pulling this box is, again, faster than pushing it, and more accurate. You want it to be relatively close to the little doorway there. If you stand for just a second next to this box, it will give you the option to place, so that you don't have to just throw the barrel up there. Rico's kind of going a little bit nuts, but eventually he's going to realize that he's hungry. There is a small invisible wall out here that prevents this from rolling off, but if Trico is still either in the middle of the fight or completely settled down, that invisible wall becomes a little bit patchy, and you might find your barrel rolling off into the abyss. So it's best to drop the barrel through this thing, to toss it through there. When Trico's kind of in the process of calming down, that's gonna be your best bet. Boy, he really decimated these guys. And, you know, drop it right in front of him. Drop it close to him for maximum chances that he'll eat it quickly. He always has to do that little dance. Nothing really you can do about that. Once he starts coming over, you can direct him to the next piece of the puzzle that he has to solve. And he has now seen it, so we can go ahead and join him. You can do that either with the forward command or with the jump command. I have better success with forward. Bye, buddy. Now this section is all just pretty standard. Basically just complete it. It's risky to let Trico grab you, but I still usually do, because it's a fast way to get up onto his back. As you can see, I did nearly fall to my death, which is why it's risky. So that's entirely up to you. If you don't want him to pick you up, just run towards him and out of sort of the range of his face, and he'll leave you alone. He's currently very confused, so come on, buddy. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to glitch the game. Hopefully we get it, because you only get one chance. As Trico heads over to this Coliseum, we need to understand that the game loads things in... like, it doesn't load things all at once. It loads them sort of in pieces. So it's not going to start loading this Coliseum until we touch that platform over there. Which means that if we can touch the platform and then reset as soon as we touch the platform, which means that's not going to work because my controller decided to be a butt face, we can stop the armors from correctly spawning. As you can see, here they are, because, of course, my controller had to do that. If we had done this correctly, you know, if my controller hadn't been such a butt, only this guy in the back with the spear would exist. And we wouldn't have had to worry about breaking that mirror and fighting all of these dudes. course, you know, I wish I could have shown that off for you, but we only get the one chance, and my start button decided to be finicky. Happens from time to time. But basically, as soon as you touch down, reset, and only the guy in the back will continue to exist. And, like, realistically, this fight went very quickly. So, a bad fight against one enemy can be slower than a good fight against all four. So you're kind of just rolling the dice, right? About how fast things are actually going to go. That was a good fight, so we didn't really actually lose time by having to do that. But if that had been a poor fight, it would have been pretty obvious why just having one suit of armor is better. Roll this so that the majority of it is in the sun. And stand, like, toward the end-ish. You don't necessarily need to stand on the very, very end, but don't stand halfway up or you're not going to get the right momentum. As soon as you come up here, that is the lever that we're going for. So try to get Trico to follow you as fast as you can. This is going to be the place where he has the opportunity to jump up. And as soon as you see his head, you're good to go back in here and keep solving the rest of the puzzle. So to your right is the next lever that you want. Do not reset after you hit these levers, or you will go all the way back down. Wait until Trico... The door on the left needs to be opening and Trico needs to hop up. Once both of those criteria have been met, then you can reset. So Trico's gonna take a little bit of time to follow us here. Just call him, lead him around. Once Trico gets hereabouts, I usually tell him to jump, and he typically understands what that means. A little bit less than ideal. We did want to be kind of on the center of his back as he came up, just so we could make this jump, but that's fine. We're not trying to do everything perfectly. Come and stand a little bit past this pile of rubble, so that Trico can be close to the pile of rubble when he comes to see you. And then you can tell him to go up there. I use the jump command just because it's high enough that he doesn't necessarily understand what you mean by forward. Stand kind of on the center of his back. You can jump from his head if you want, but the center of his back is typically a pretty decent place, unless, of course, you do exactly that. Which is, grab Trico's face. He happened to look back toward me, and the boy recognized that he could grab it, so sometimes that happens. We're down in the water anyway. It is what it is. X is the button to dive, triangle is the button to swim back up. Call Trico very quickly before you do this lever, and then call him again afterwards before you jump in the water. And that should basically make it so that he jumps in and is coming back up as you get to him. That way you don't have to wait for him. And you're basically just telling him to go toward the torches. That's all you need to do. Forward toward the torches. do not call Trico during this part, because he needs to go back and be working on getting up onto that island. And if you call him, it can distract him and stop him from doing that. And then he won't be in a position to help you solve the puzzle when you need him. So just leave Trico alone, let him do his thing. And then once you're over here, feel free to call Trico. Also, ignore Mort Cam. Mort's not actually live today. I'm using old VODs of Mort, and it's currently showing an ad, so...
Hello, Ryan Otter. Thanks for stopping by.
Oh no. Hold up. As you can see, I was using a VOD because it decided to turn the audio back on. Sorry. So once you hit that lever, call Trico kind of incessantly to keep him from swimming away. And then once again, you know, push forward toward the lamps. And Trico will go. But yeah, Mortcam isn't live because I gave Morty a bunch of leaves, like autumn leaves in his enclosure, and you kind of can't see him right now. Plus, I didn't want to have to deal with the camera while I was also thinking about all the things that I need to talk about to tell y'all how to do this run, so I'm just using, like, VODs of Mort, which means that it is occasionally playing ads and apparently unmuting my muted video, so you know.
Atamise Tarana, Ototuri Kuno, Irakazi, Arasai, Iniazi, Awi.
So we're on our own for now, obviously. You don't need to run all the way to the middle to turn that on, but really there's no rush, so you might as well. I recommend against jumping very far along this railing. You can jump quite a distance to skip a little bit of walking, but 9 times out of 10 the boy is actually not going to grab it anymore. He's going to stand on top of it and then walk off the other side. And then you have to go all the way back down. You have to call the elevator again, wait for the elevator. It's just really not worth it for the, you know, what, second that you save. So I definitely recommend, you know, getting on that railing pretty early. And all of this is just basic platforming. You're gonna have it down after you do it a couple times. It's just all about optimizing your movement. It's about making sure that the boy doesn't do long grabs, long hangs, whenever possible. You know, making sure that he's doing the faster of his animation options whenever you can. Because it's unavoidable that you're going to be hanging and clambering and climbing and all sorts, but you can at least make it a little bit better. You can jump diagonally onto this instead of having to go all the way around. And similarly, you can optimize your movement there by dropping down again instead of having to waddle. And then again, you know, run across this using tap downs instead of just waddling. So for this section, go forward a little bit, tap down, hard right, and then just run past her. Where she is, excuse you, where she is actually will heavily influence how quickly you can get through here. We got super unlucky. We were actually completely past her, and then the force of her spinning around actually counted as being hit, even though she didn't swat at us. So that was, you know, kind of unlucky. It's not super uncommon to get hit there one way or another. You know, she's not always in the same position, so it all just depends. I hesitated very briefly in that tunnel right when I dropped down from the vines so that she would be tricked into thinking that I was staying over there. If you hop down and then just immediately head to the other side of the tunnel through the tiny little cave, she will actually beat you. She will be faster and she'll stop you from progressing. So you need to stay in the first cave that you drop down into for just a second or two to make her restart the animation of sticking her head in that side, and then you can go through to the other side, and she won't be there. If you don't, she will be there on the other side, because she wasn't committed to an animation on the other side, and she'll stick her head in and she'll knock you off of the thing you're trying to climb. And you'll have to trick her, you'll have to go back through the tiny little cave and make her go to that side again. As for her sticking her head through those holes, there's no sense in trying to get across the first one, even though it's a platform and you totally can. She has to stick her head through both holes anyway, so you might as well just wait. We don't have to do anything through any of this. So she'll go no matter what. And this will progress no matter what. Like, whether I move or don't move, where I am, anything like that, it doesn't matter. Why was there dust from up there? So just feel free to use this time to, you know, remind yourself of what the cage feels like. Because that's obviously going to be very helpful. And eventually it will pan out and we'll be able to progress.
Patisokazi, Ona Kich Yok, Idirotti, Awizi.
So again, during this section also doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're calling Trico. I mean, we're gonna sit ourselves right here because why not? Now, a couple things kind of before we get to Cage Puzzle proper that I would like to cover. I can see that we're getting another Twitch ad on MortyCam. Enjoy, Jimmy John? Taco Bell? I don't know. Free advertising. Anyway, once Trico pushes you up onto the platform, don't move. Like, don't be pushing forward, just hang out. Because if you push forward, the cage is going to actually spin sideways more than you want it to. So, don't do that. Just hang out until the boy is able to stand up. Alright, so wait for him to borf, and then you can restart. And from there, you want to just sort of, hopefully Trico doesn't get in the way, coax the cage basically to right here. This is a good spot, which is to the right of this little green protrusion. If you're on the other side of the green protrusion, that is also fine. I just wouldn't be any further left than what I am now. So he can mess up the cage for sure in, you know, wanting pets. I use forward. Some people use interact. It seems like basically if you tell Trico to do something, he'll do something for you here. He is super distracted, so we'll just keep trying to get his attention. Buddy, could use some assistance, please. So as soon as he starts pushing, I'm not going to be hitting any buttons. You know, he's pushing me up here. He's doing a great job. And by not moving, I let the cage stand exactly, you know, where he pushed it, instead of having it roll on its axis. Now I'm just trying to straighten it out. And we'll hop straight down here. Remember to alternate left to right in order to keep it straight. Try to stay sort of where these circles are around the outside, left to right alternating in order to roll straight. For this section, walk around until you get your bearings again, and then once he can move, zip him straight forward to the front of the cage and it'll start rolling, and then just do a couple hops to get it sort of the rest of the way. Now if you do happen to get stuck in Cage Puzzle, you can't, you know, you're in a corner. I want to wait until it's quiet. You're in a corner, you can't get out, Trico gave you a bad setup, whatever. If you actually look back at the beginner's guide that I made, I give a lot more detail about how to control the cage, how to get yourself out of these problematic situations. Or, you know, like I said before, you can just hit me up and I'll help you out. Roll on over to this right-hand side and zip yourselves down the stairs. That is a fairly decent place to be. We're gonna gain momentum when we come off of this thing, so I don't want to roll it off before the boy is able to, like, continue walking, you know? Because that was what enabled us to get up here. So be strategic about sort of how... Yep. about where the cage is and where you're gonna be gaining momentum from. Because sometimes it's in your interest to just stand there and wait until the boy can walk again in order to make sure that you keep your momentum from rolling off of something. As opposed to rolling off of it when the boy's leg is broken, and then because his leg is broken he can't push the cage anymore. And so you had momentum and then you lost it by just, you know, not being able to move anymore. So be a little strategic. If for some reason the cage lands between the other cage and the outside wall, reset. You cannot get out of that, so just reset and try again. So once this guy starts casting these things, just head for this place right next to that square rock and just step up. You don't need to hit any buttons, just push forward and the boy will step up on his own, and then you're good to go. And once again, the best place to put a Trico barrel is essentially right under his nose. Once he stands up, you're good to give him a command to go over there. I usually use forward instead of jump. So Trico is looking at the next thing that I want him to do, so I'm going to let him do that. Like I said, probably a million times by now, pay attention to Trico's body language. He will tell you what is happening. So he did this on his own without a command. This next one, though, can be a little bit tricky. He is not looking at it, so I understand that he needed a little bit of guidance. These next few, he's usually pretty good at taking on his own, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's just going to do that. You need a little bit of guidance, buddy? He always looks up to the left even though this jump is right in front of him. But he is now looking back to me for more help, so I will give that. And then again, up to the left now is where he actually needs to go. He was a little bit confused earlier. Like I said, he always looks up to the left, even though the next jump is, you know, right in front of him. But he wants to go up through this hole. We need to get his attention here by telling him to stop the sniffing that he's doing. And then I typically use forward to get him through this hole. You can use jump, but jump is a little risky because it's very easy for him to just jump in place here. And then he'll get pretty confused, so I would recommend forward. I'm actually going to reach down and pet him because this is a kind of common place to fall off of his back because the boy doesn't want to grab anymore. And petting is, you know, it kind of locks the boy into an animation that encourages him to grab. As soon as Trico goes through here, you can give him the jump command again. He looked back for more help, so I gave it a second time to make sure that he understood. And then once we're out here, we can just get his attention and start heading this way. I typically walk to about this little grassy platform here, past those leaves, to wait for Trico, and then give him a forward command into the direction that I can't see. Once he looks forward like that, I get the impression that he knows where he's going, and I'm able to come back and join him. And then he'll do the rest of this on his own. So you don't need to give any further commands. That will just confuse him more. as Trico starts to make these final couple jumps, you're gonna want to make sure that you get onto his head in preparation for this little trick here. Hopefully he will look to the right. He did. And then we can just completely fail. Let's see if we can get this to work. Hey, Treeks. Thank you, buddy. You're just trying to land on that platform. If you fail, it's fine. You'll die and you'll go down to Trico's feet, and then you'll just have to shimmy like I'm doing now across to that platform. But sometimes, you know, if you can get the... We can get another ad, really? Sometimes if you can get the line up correctly from Trico's head, you'll be able to make that jump and save a little bit of time. So go ahead on out to the edge of this, do your little wiggle thing, and then reset. Trico will now be there and ready for you. It's really best not to get caught by the armors, but if you do, it's not a big deal. All you want to make sure is that you're standing in front of this cage by the time that this cutscene starts. And it's for the same reason that it was, you know, in the original cage, so the Trico doesn't have to move in order to grab you. Once this cutscene starts, you can go ahead and skip it. The next cutscene is unskippable, but don't leave yet because you do need to dismiss some symbols on the screen. And so now we have this unskippable cutscene, which is a great time to get water, go to the bathroom. I let my dog out, you know, so...
Ayu Rabo, Oti Ukaya, Anetu Tara, Ate de Keda Rosi, Adatu, Onozi, Awo Kuku. O Mara Genara wo so, Inaku Bastizi, Awizi.
I was just messing with Mortcam. I was trying to get rid of that little bit of, like, video that you could still see in the cropping. Morty is just over in his enclosure causing innumerable problems, and I didn't want to have to... I didn't want to miss talking about something that was important to talk about because I was focused on, you know, making sure that the camera was on Morty. So, that's why we have this, the VOD of Morty instead. just get ready to run straight downward. That's the path that you want to take. It won't let you spin the camera until you're, you know, further on, closer to about here. So don't try. Do the reset again, same thing. But yeah, if you spin the camera, it's actually just more likely to make you kind of confused about where to go, so just go straight down. Thank you, Trico, for being a butt biscuit. So I usually tell him to go forward, not to jump. Jump also works here, but I find that, you know, going forward is pretty consistent, so. There's a couple ways you can handle this. The way that I would recommend is jumping sideways like that onto the ladder. In order to do that, you are actually going to need to do kind of a little zigzag when you come out of the door. There is no reset for this door. Do not reset at this point or you will go backwards. But yeah, there's a couple ways that you can do that ladder thing. When you come out of the door, if you just try to jump straight from the door to the ladder, it's actually much harder and you're more likely to miss. So when you come out of the door, swing a little bit to the left and then jump to the right, which is what I did. And if you go back, you'll be able to see that. That can help you hit the ladder. Or come out of the door and jump directly to the left as close to where you're currently standing as you can. And you'll land on a little platform on top of the torch that's above the lever. Either way, that'll get you down faster than running all the way over to the lever and then, you know, slowly climbing down the ladder. And same principle with that ladder. Hold X to drop, let go of X and then push forward to have the boy grab so that you don't drop too far and break your leg. And then, you know, just drop the rest of the way. It's helpful to stand kind of as far back in this room as you can. If you stand close to Trico, he won't come all the way in, and that can be hard then to climb the top of his head. But when he's all the way in, it's actually pretty easy to get up here. And, you know, same thing with this as before. Make sure you turn in some direction. Or else you're just going to put that thing right back in the door. As soon as that bar touches the ground, you can reset and start heading down this way. So once Trico is almost here, you can start doing this. I mean, you can do it the entire time if you'd like to, but wait till he sticks his head through. And then you can go and meet him right in front of his face. Is where, you know, that's gonna happen. What is up with these ads? Why are we getting ads like every 6 seconds? I just want to look at Morty. Hop up here and just kind of take a blind leap to the left. That's usually just the best way to get out of there. Running along the left-hand side here is generally the fastest way to get up. And now we will be heading to White Tower Skip. We're going to spend a fair bit of time on this to make sure that you're clear on how it works. And I am going to do the best White Tower Skip. I as a runner, Sable, am most notorious for doing White Tower a different way. But I will actually do it the fastest way. So come back, make sure that you hear Trico Baru so that you know he's coming. My Trico tends to be pretty pacifist here. I know that some runners don't really have that problem. Pacifist being, you know, he smacks them but they don't die. Hi. Well, I'm not gonna complain about that. That's 2 of them dead. I mean, pretty good. Except I had very nearly killed that guy, Trico. Could you just let me? Trico, kill him or don't, but make a decision. Thank you. So once Trico's done with this fight, essentially he's gonna always shout at this white tower, so you've got a little bit of time, you know, to climb him and make sure things are golden. I usually use forward instead of jump. He is desperately trying to figure it out, but he's got it. Now typically the best way to do this is to start to work toward getting the same place that you did at the beginning of the game, where we tried to drop down next to the eyeball before the first cage. Get down kind of by his ear and just hang out. And of course now we're on his shoulder, which we don't really want, so I'm gonna push myself down a little bit. So the reason that we want to be on either his cheek or his shoulder or whatever is because now, once he's over here, we can go ahead and die, apparently. It happens. We want to be on his shoulder, or whatever, is because when we get to this bit, we want to be able to drop down. Controls are going to actually be inverted. But... Rico, excuse me. You will be able to move during that cutscene, which I was just demonstrating. If you can wrap your mind around the inverted controls, and you're very lucky and Trico's not in the way, you can actually make the majority of the run down this straightaway while the cutscene is still playing. But with controls being inverted and you're looking at the boy sideways, that means that the controls are not only inverted but, you know, also rotated. So it can be a little bit tricky to wrap your mind around that. So this is how the best white tower works. You can do it from either side, and there's actually a couple methods that you can do. The first method is going to be essentially standing right here, going around the outside, and landing in the V like that. So, I had to take my dog out. Sorry. I know that I had just done a cutscene where I explicitly said, hey, this is a great time to take your dog out, but I asked him and he didn't have to go, and then suddenly he was super desperate, so I had to take him, and I accidentally left the timer running when I went outside, so I paused it. Sorry. We were just talking about how to go straight and get into the V's. For what it's worth, it is also possible, you know, to do kind of this kind of maneuver and land in the V as well. Regardless of how you do it, once you're in the V, you're gonna be walking up this beam. And from there, you're gonna be hopping up to the beam that's directly above you, and then up again to the bridge. right about there, you just want to hop off sideways. And sometimes he won't necessarily go up, so you might have to walk a little distance to find a place where he's gonna grab like this. Let me restart the timer as well, so that we can get that back on track. Sorry that the dog kind of ruined the nice fluid cut of that. So once you're up here, either one of these is fine to push. Also, I didn't actually split for White Tower skip. And then just run back as far as you can. As forward on this bridge as you can. So they don't have to walk quite so far to, you know, to find you. So yeah, I do an alternate method of White Tower that is not that method, but that method that I showed, either regardless of whether you jump across to get into the V or jump straight and around to get into the V, either way, it's faster than the safer method that I use. But if you would like a safer method, you know, or a method, maybe this one just isn't working for you and you want a different method, just let me know and I'll show you how to do mine. So as soon as the boy's able to move, you can actually reset. That will take you right in front of Trico's face and you won't have to do all of that little climbing puzzle right there. So from here, the best way to do this is to stand behind this little, you can see this metal thing on the ground. Jump and then don't push forward, just like let yourself fall. And usually the boy is pretty good about grabbing Trico's head at that point. And of course you can do it the game's intended way, which is to hop across the gargoyles, let the gargoyles fall, and then you'll fall down onto Trico anyway, but that way it's just a little bit faster. So give Trico just a second. Usually when I see his leg, I feel pretty confident about it. He's not necessarily ready to catch you as soon as he pops out of there.
Atisakyak yetu ninaf aturikono agiane hediroi yo agatu ian ihetu nezuna ara kulo kutiu otiana risoma kyura letu arake.
So Trico's gonna ask for pets here, or he'll grab you like that. Either way, as soon as you can move, go ahead and reset. That will help him to turn around and get out of that whole petting idea so that you can go a little bit faster. So once he's up here, encourage him to go across. I usually use the straight command and not the jump command. Once he starts doing it, you want to be kind of down on his ankle here. As soon as he hits down, you can hop off of him and be on the ground. Get past this pile of rocks. And then he'll come, he'll flare his wings. Once that happens, tell him to jump. Don't give him a direction. Like, just use jump by itself. And then climb him while he's kind of calibrating his path here. You want to be on his head, or as close to his head as possible. And he will take this jump via flight instead of by jumping across the platforms one by one. I don't really think that he understood me. Thankfully, he seems to be doing it anyway, because he's a good guy. It looks like he's going to be taking the next one as well. But for that, I just gave him a jump command in the general direction that I wanted him to go. Now I'm giving him a go forward command into this room. I'm holding this one for a little while because he can often have problems understanding you here. And then I'm going to head down kind of onto his front leg. As far down as possible, as far down as he lets me before he starts this jump. And again, once you get close to the ground, hop off. This time we splatted a little bit. That guard right there with the sword will always try to step in your way. So it doesn't matter what way you go, just juke at the last minute so that he doesn't, you know, stop you from running. You only need to push that eyeball across the seam in the middle of the bridge. That's far enough. I typically just grab this chain because sometimes, you know, it encourages Trico to come out faster. Other times it doesn't matter. If you just want to run onto the bridge, it accomplishes the same thing. It just feels swaggy is all. Jump on here. If you jump too soon, he won't be down there yet to catch you. Like to stop your fall. So you need to wait for her to jump first. Land on her butt, and then try to jump into this corner by the lamp. That'll put you in just the right position to grab this tail. You can continue to pull the tail during the cutscene, which can help you get, you know, a little bit further ahead. As soon as you pull it, drop the door, head to the leftmost entrance, and just run. You're gonna need to be very careful managing yourself through here. You do not want to get stuck on a Trico. If you get stuck on a Trico and you notice that you're falling with the Tricos, reset. Do not let yourself fall and touch the ground while you're on the Tricos. Hang from that wall once you make it through. If you don't make it through, you know, no big deal. I'm actually gonna stop for a second. If you don't make it through, no big deal. Oh, that's just going, isn't it? You can just finish running the rest of the way after the Tricos fall and the cutscene is played. But hang from the wall and don't drop down to here until the cutscene is over. If you drop before... It's just creeping, little by little. If you drop before the cutscene is over, these minecarts will not move. You will not have triggered the thing that says you can push the minecart. So make sure that that you hang until the cutscene is over. As soon as you have a gap between those minecarts, jump after Trico. If you wait to jump until the scene is playing, the boy will probably just bounce off of Trico and die, which is why it's important that you jump as soon as possible, as soon as you have an opening, before the scene starts. And aim for Trico's back-ish. Don't aim for his legs, or you'll just slip off. Pull a spear, just to improve your chances here in the next section. I do not currently see any spears, which... Oh, there's one. Okay, good. Immediately check Trico for spears as you're hopping off of him. Here. Make note of where they are, because if the little boy says, hold on Trico, I'll pull it out, you need to remove at least one spear. If you have no spears, you can choose to chance it and continue on in the hope that you pass the spear check and the boy is not going to say, hold on Trico, I'll pull it out. Or you can just reset to generate spears. If you chance it and Trico doesn't have any spears and then later the boy says, hold on Trico, I'll pull it out, you're going to have to reset this entire section. So that's why, you know, it's a risk-reward type of thing, right? So the first thing that we're going to explode is this armor up here. The one that was throwing stuff at Trico. The next thing we're going to explode is this train cart. You can pull this down. You can climb on it and it will fall down. But that breaks your leg and it just takes longer, so we hit it with his tail instead. The next thing we're going to hit is this other suit of armor, which is very hard to see, but is right up here. And the final thing is this door that has food behind it for Trico. So the thought process, right, is if you see spears in Trico, don't pull them as soon as you see them. It's a waste of time to pull them if you were going to pass the spear check anyway. And if you aren't going to pass the spear check and the little boy says, hold on Trico, I'll pull it out, then you have something to pull. So just take inventory of what spears Trico has so that you know where to go and what to do depending on what the boy says. If the boy doesn't say anything, you're good to go. So we'll toss both of those down. Doesn't really matter where they land. As long as you land on Trico, you're not going to break your leg, so make sure that you land on Trico's butt. Trico takes a long time to eat, so I'm not really concerned with bringing any of these barrels closer to him. The best way to get him to eat is by holding them in your arms and standing directly in front of his face. If you put them on the ground, there is a marginal chance that he'll eat them, but his aim is very bad in this particular section as far as, you know, eating them off the ground. If a barrel gets stuck underneath these metal pieces, which has certainly happened to me before, just use Trico's tail to blast the metal off of the barrels. So it looks like we are not gonna get hold on Trico, I'll pull it out, which is why I did not remove that spear. Would have been a waste of time, turns out. As long as the camera pans up, we know that we're good once he eats this barrel. It did not pan, but the boy didn't say anything. That's weird. So, we'll pull, and that causes the pan. So, as you can see, that's why we left the spear. That's actually the first time in my multiple years of running this that I've ever had the boy not say, hold on, Chico, I'll pull it out. Unless he said it and I just didn't notice. But we still failed the spear check. So if that scene doesn't play, if the camera doesn't start to move upwards once you've given Trico those barrels, that's the problem. You need to remove spears. Remember that if you do have to reset because there's no spears to pull or whatever, remember that you'll have to re-explode everything with Trico's tail. That includes the 2 armors. Those will not be, like, saved, so you'll have to do that again. It can be sort of a rude awakening, right? To finish the puzzle again and then realize, oh shoot, the armors are still here. So I usually use the jump command here, just because what we're trying to get to is directly above Trico instead of in front of him. And from this point, he will handle it himself. We have taken care of the armors, so there's no fights on the way up. And he once he's done dancing around, will be able to do all these jumps on his own without guidance. He usually does a cute little spinny spin here. There he goes. It doesn't matter if you give him a command at that point, like, he will still do it anyway. And now, of course, we're not gonna finish, you know, anywhere close to world record. I spent a couple minutes just standing there explaining White Tower. Spent a couple minutes in other places just standing there and explaining things, but this is still gonna get us a really solid time. So, you'll be able to see that even with just putzing around, you know, you'll be able to get a very good time as well if you do these things. Head on up to Trico's head. Enjoy the 1500th ad that's playing on Mortycam. I would like to remind you that this is my own channel. I don't know why I'm getting ads. But anyway, head up to Trico's head because you butt. You're gonna want to be on this this drawbridge and face Trico as fast as you can. Force him to turn around because he won't shoot this if he's not turned. So the reason you want to be on his head is to jump off onto this drawbridge. Boy, I couldn't say that. That didn't exactly happen. I kind of had to troubleshoot at the last minute because the boy lost his balance. But you definitely want to be at the top of the drawbridge and turned around facing Trico as fast as possible. Because if you let Trico just like hop up there on his own and don't look at him, he's gonna get stuck with his butt facing towards you. And he won't shoot when his butt is facing towards you. So if you find that he's stuck there, just like do this for a second just to get him to lift his tail. And then that'll kind of break him of it and he'll turn towards you. But seriously, like, for real. This is my own channel that I'm capturing Mortcam from. I don't know why we're getting ads every 5 minutes. soon as Trico breaks that, we can head out this way. Trico is gonna charge towards you. As soon as he starts walking out, you need to get this beam up to this eyeball as fast as possible, or he is gonna stand in the way. It's usually a blind shot, trying to make that. We did, however, make it. This eyeball that I'm currently shooting is the most important. If you don't feel like you can get any others, get that one. And then, you know, we're gonna work on these a little bit. Don't stand too far forward on this platform that I'm currently on, or Trico might just walk towards you and punt you off. Especially with this one, because whenever the mirror's light is broken, Trico loses focus for a second, and that lets him walk around and take a couple steps. So, you know, you need to be especially careful with some of those, the mirrors that you have to shoot after the light of the mirror has been broken, right? With ones that you can just go from eyeball to eyeball and the light from the shield is not interrupted, it's easy. But transitioning between towers or taking the light off of the tower into the distance where it breaks and then putting it back on the eyeball gives Trico a little bit of time to wander around, and that can really break things. Because he shoots fastest when he can just do like repeated shots, right? If you just keep the beam out and focused, he'll shoot much faster. So the reason we wanted to deal with that other eyeball was because obviously it was going to be right here. You will see that the pathing that I took for the shield, if you look back, was one that put it over the building as much as possible. Again, I want the light from the shield to be focused and pointing at something as much as possible, because that entire time Trico is charging up his tail to shoot. If I just point the mirror out into the distance and it's not focused on anything, I'm spending that entire time with Trico just staring into oblivion doing nothing. But if it's pointed at something, he's charging up his tail. So I'm trying to take the light from the mirror over as many physical objects as possible and not let it, you know, putz out in the distance. I'm gonna come right about to this little separator in the ground. Trico's gonna follow me. Don't let him get too close or I'll put his head in the way. And again, I'm gonna focus this mirror as fast as possible on the building. Once it's focused, getting it up here isn't as big of a deal. It's literally just keeping this focused beam on the building and not letting it dissipate so that Trico continues to charge up his shot instead of losing it. I'll use jump for that. Technically, telling him to go that direction also works, but I just typically use jump. And I'm staying on his back instead of on his head because that's going to be the most beneficial place to jump from. Be careful in this section. If you die, you will have to go back down. You will have to explode the armors again, all of it. It's a very unforgiving checkpoint. It's better to be safe than to go all the way back. And Trico leaves. there's not really much you can do about that. You can, like I promised, you can spam call him the entire time you're on the outside of the tower. Doesn't matter. Whether he stays or leaves is just RNG. Sometimes he'll stay, and honestly, I'm not convinced that him staying is better, because it takes longer for him to understand what you're asking in that case. Hey, buddy. As soon as he's through that door, you can go ahead and tell him to go forward. He'll figure the rest out on his own. For this one, it doesn't matter if you're on his head or on his back. I'm typically on his back because the cutscene, well, the script is gonna lock you in place. So even if you're on his head and it looks like you can jump, you won't be able to control the boy, so... it locks you for all of this. So even though obviously it seems like there's a lot of time where you could be hopping off of his head, you don't get control of the boy until right now. Chico has an idea of where he wants to go already, but I'm not gonna trust him with that. Come on, dude. I'm still gonna give him that jump command. And he's looking at where he's supposed to go, so I trust that he's got it now. Now for this one, assuming that you did actually destroy those armors, the pedestals over there, Draco will not get into a fight here, he will not get upset, you won't have to calm him down. And so you're good to literally just tell him to go across. He will go backwards in order to go forwards, that's fine. He is listening, he just needs a little bit of a run up before he goes across. For this one, it's better to be on his head. So head over to there. Because he's gonna hit this building sideways, and then if you're on his head, you'll be able to jump off before he fully gets himself in the door. So the final armor pedestal that we're going to need to deal with is actually directly above us right now. You can maybe, yep, see it up there. It is very, very challenging, and I would not recommend trying to shoot it from this platform, because Trico needs to be positioned in such a way that he is out of the view of the shield's beam. And look at how big this platform is. Like, his butt needs to be out, and he needs to be out of the way of the shield. It's not going to happen. It's possible, but setting it up just takes so much more time than actually just solving this the intended way, so... we are just going to solve this the intended way. Which means I'm going to get on his head because he's about to pivot around. And again, I'm just trying to focus the light of the mirror as soon as possible. Whether that's on the armor's platform or on the building, it doesn't matter. Because Trico needs to start charging. That's what causes him to stop moving and just chill out. So we need that mirror beam to be, you know, focused for as long as possible. At this point, we're going to start building the bridge. There's nothing really special about, you know, how you go about this first one. It's literally just don't take a long time to do it. So as we head back down, you're gonna have the choice, sort of how you want to land on Trico. It's dangerous to land between his eyes, but I'm going to. Or, you know, I'll just fall down here, and thank God that I didn't die. The reason it's dangerous to land between his eyes, I wanted to show you. It's dangerous to land between his eyes because there is no grab point there, so a lot of times, sure, you'll land just fine, but then when he puts his head down to start walking, you'll just fall off and fall to your death. But unfortunately, I didn't get to show you. I got to show you a different possibility instead, which is that the side of that platform doesn't exist. Technically, you can be on Trico's head if you want. It's a little bit faster. Because it enables you to, you know, jump off of his head if he would stop looking around like a weirdo. Trico, what are you doing, dude? Put your head down. And now the boy is just being a butt, and I just want to be off of his face. That doesn't typically happen. So for this next bit, you know, this is, I think, one of the most known things that happens in this run. For people who are, you know, still getting familiar with it. We're gonna pull this lever, and then we are going to try to walk around the outside of this pedestal. Hopefully Trico will be, you know, down below to catch me as I fall. So that's gonna be to your left after you pull the lever. So I gave Trico the forward command. It was pretty sloppy because I wasn't, you know, standing exactly where I wanted to be on Trico. But if we get music playing, and especially if he's looking back like this, he knows where he wants to be. You can see I can rotate, but I can't move. So for a little bit there, you're gonna have your movement sort of handicapped. Make sure that you are pretty close to where you want to be for however you want to deal with this fight coming up before that starts, or you're going to be locked into a certain place. I typically like to be on his head, but you know, that's up to you. People handle this fight differently. I like to be on his head is basically just that, you know, I get to just jump off right away. I'm actually gonna pick up this helmet and get rid of it because it's gonna be all sorts of in the way. So Trico's gonna be, I guess I'll get rid of this one too. Trico's gonna be in the process of, you know, taking care of these guys. He's actually doing really well. You need to keep track of how many soldiers are left. When there's only one soldier left, besides these ones up in the scaffolds, you'll need to head down to the lower level. He's still fighting the one down below, and I can see this one up above, so I know that for now we're safe. Alright, but now he's just going after this guy, so I gotta make sure to be down here for when he eventually kills that guy, because the second phase of the fight is going to spawn this guy with the shield. And we want to make sure that he does not get the chance to actually bring that shield out. And the reason I ran over here is because this guy can sometimes have a shield. And if he does, I want to make sure that he doesn't actually get the chance to use it. So I am going to chuck that away. Getting caught multiple times doesn't matter. What's important is making sure that Trico does not have a visual on these intact shields. Because Trico's been fighting this entire time, you know, he's fine. Go ahead and stop that guy right in his tracks. Okay. Way to go, dude. So yeah, I typically will check that door to the left just to make sure that a guy with a shield didn't come out. Because if I had continued to stand here, I wouldn't have noticed him until Trico was already, you know, transfixed by the shield, so. Finished taking care of those guys. I saw one get over here and not explode, so I'm gonna zap him while Trico's taking care of this one. Trico is just staring at the floor, so I am assuming that the fight is done. Be sure that the fight music stops by the time you get around to the end of this building, the back of this building. Because if it does not, this skip won't work. All of the armors have to be dead, which is why we do the fight instead of just skipping it. And so for this skip, you're going to run to the far side of the circular room that we're about to enter. And then you can select any of the holes in the floor that are open. I usually choose this one because it's fully open. Jump through it, and you'll grab the side. It's important that you jump through a little before you actually reach the hole, or else you're just gonna, you know, catch either side of it. And once you jump through, keep pushing forward. That will make sure that the boy gets all the way to the platform and grabs it. You can do this bit in a number of ways. This is typically how I do it, because this just makes the most sense to me. But lots of people have lots of different ways of doing this, so experiment with it and see what works for you. What I'm going to be trying to do is stopping all three of these suits of armor in front of this doorway, so that when they explode, hopefully two of their heads go and wake up the other two suits of armor that are around here. I saw one of them wake up. I'm not sure about the other one, so I'm just going to wake up as many as I can at once. Gotta make sure this guy doesn't catch me from behind. So now we've got two guys chilling. We'll explode them. I don't see the third guy, which means, you know, we probably didn't get that helmet to connect. Which is fine. I mean, that's just a total RNG thing, you know? Whether or not the physics of the game sends an armor that direction when he explodes. So, no big deal. I'm gonna, in this case, go back the way that I remembered most of the armor's coming from. I know that the one without a head is still back here, but I want to light as many of these as I can so that I don't actually have to kill this guy. I just, you know, can wake him up and then turn it on from behind him. As you can see, you know, we've turned all these on. I'm gonna grab this helmet.
That happens to me all the time, this guy.
But
Like,
you're not.
any of the marathons that I...
Why? Sorry. I don't know why it's just turning audio on all of a sudden. Alright. Grab that guy's helmet. And then I am going to sit him down and turn this on from a distance. You certainly do not have to do it that way. That was just, you know, the way that was most efficient for me at that moment. That armor is still alive, but as long as that thing is open, we're good to reset. And we will be up here. So sorry again for potentially blasting your eardrums out there. I don't know why it is doing that. It's just randomly playing stuff in the background. I was hoping for this to be like a pretty decent, clean quality video, but guess I'm not allowed. will be the final fight in the game. Again, just like what we just did, you know, there's many ways to deal with this. And it's never going to be the same, right? You know, it's always going to depend on what Trico has done and what is currently happening. That guy should not have been able to catch me because the mirror was directly in his face, but you know. This is fine. Like, it's just encouraging Trico to fight, except that he knocked this guy down and then didn't kill him, and so that was completely pointless, but still. Okay, that guy's not interested in me. I interrupted the beam on Trico there. And I'm actually not going to be able to see this guy. So the best I could do was try to knock him down. Got them to intersect, which was actually kind of intentional. So once Trico takes care of this guy, hopefully be soon. This guy's gonna try to come out of here with one of these. I'm gonna stop him. He is the door to the left. If you're looking at this thing, he's the door to the left of it. If you're looking at it from the front. This is a dangerous place to be, right in front of this door. So I'm going to be trying to take out whatever one Trico is not taking out. And then again, the left side of that platform, we're going to have another one trying to come out with a shield. And then across here, we'll have an additional one trying to come out with a shield. So I'm doing my best, you know, to stop that from happening. He did make it out, but he's not actually using the shield. I think I broke my beam there, but I'm hoping that I can kind of explode the shield in one of these suits of armor. Shield is indestructible, apparently. So as we approach the end of the fight here, we need to start giving consideration to where Trico is standing as he's finishing the fight. He's in a good position right now. You do not want him to be in the center of the arena like he is now. So I'm gonna move out of the way and make sure that he kind of stands out of the way as well. And see, this is suddenly a bad situation. His butt is directly in the middle and he will not listen to me. So the reason we need him to not be in the middle is because this thing coming down, you know, if he stands in the way, it will land on him. Thankfully, you know, we can kind of prevent that by shining the light up to it, and we crashed. What a run, huh? So the way you can get Trico out of the middle, right, is when you shine his tail light up to the ceiling, don't hit the green circle that brings the platform down right away. Shine it kind of around the ceiling a little bit, because that will get him to step sideways as he kind of focuses on where he wants to point his tail, and that'll get him out of the middle, usually. This tutorial has been cursed, and I love it, and it's going on YouTube anyway. I'm not doing it again, even though MortCam is playing ads every 5 seconds, and the game crashed. And I had to take the dog out during White Tower. What is this? And we're still gonna end up with a pretty decent time, you know? Now, where am I? Am I done with that fight? Are we doing the fight again? Maybe we're doing the fight again. I won't begrudge doing the fight again. You know, just kind of showing you how it works. It looks like it's done. Maybe. Probably. Yep. So we've just got a short run up to the end. Even when I'm like not streaming and literally just trying to make a not memey tutorial, this game is so memey. I love it. I can tell you, my voice is basically dead though. I've been speaking almost non-stop for like 3.5 hours. But this next little bit is pretty self-explanatory. Just a couple things to keep in mind. Rico typically jumps off of this pillar at a pretty good location, so you don't really want to be, you know, running circles around it. Just let him do it. Once he's down, you want him to go to the pillar behind him. So just giving him a jump command and facing in that direction is usually, you know, sufficient to kind of communicate what it is that you want him to know. So make your way to his head if you would like to do the riskiest strategy. If you would like to stay a little bit safer, stay on his back. When he makes this third jump, he will be placing you on his head next to a window. As he turns his head, you will be able to jump into it if you are careful. If you would like to wait for the much safer attempt, wait on his back, and you will have the same opportunity a little bit later. But, you know, for the fastest method and the riskiest method, jump from his head. And again, you know, we want the shield to be charging for as long as possible. Plus, it's a bit faster to move with the shield out when you're spinning than it is to just spin the camera. So, we will direct the shield onto the master. Push this as far in as you feel comfortable without pushing it, like, fully onto him. If you put it all the way in, obviously it'll just explode back out way too fast. But it's still best to give yourself as much time as possible, because there's a little seam up top here that sometimes the boy can't climb past. Things can get a little messy if your timing is really tight, so. I would not push forward here when you jump, just jump straight up. Or else you might accidentally, you know, jump past it and fall back down. With a little bit of practice, you'll be able to keep track of where this thing is. I actually landed basically completely opposite of it, so it didn't matter which way I went. I typically use the look at Trico button. That gives me the clearest view of when Trico is actually, you know, through the fan. And once he's through, you're good to go. He's getting ready to run, which is fine. I mean, if you can grab him, go ahead, because he'll take you exactly where you need to be. And in order to trigger the cutscene, all you need is to be directly next to him. Like this. So just kind of wander around at his side. Give Trico a movement command of any kind. Can we jump, interact, forward, whatever. And it will trigger the next scene. Head back toward Trico, stand at his side, and the next scene will trigger. Okay, so as soon as you can move, you can go ahead and reset. That's going to do a couple things. It's going to unbreak your leg, and it's going to give you a clear shot to run towards the shield. I typically stay just right here. It ends up being a pretty good position for being launched later. we'll tumble off of this enemy Trico. Hopefully, yeah, it was pretty generous in that it didn't smack us or otherwise bop into us. You don't have to be smacked in order to get knocked down by these guys. Even just the force of them walking next to you will knock you down. So grab the shield, and then, you know, you watch this cutscene. So as soon as we have control of the boy, we're gonna head directly into this this tower. I typically find it best to grab the tail sort of toward the bulb, but then pull the thin part as close as possible to the ledge. That tends to get it down in one go. Stand some distance away from the tail so that you don't accidentally grab the tail. And then timing will stop as soon as, you know, the master is hit here. It often takes 2 hits. If you're lucky, it'll take 1. And we were lucky. So, that is the end of an 80% speedrun. I cannot believe, like, I literally took the dog out for 5 minutes, and we still finished with a 325. If I was running this seriously, this actually would have been a really decent run. But anyway, I hope that that was helpful. I am always available to answer any questions whatsoever that you have about this run. I mean, about The Last Guardian in general. It doesn't have to be any percent, you know, it can be all barrels or whatever. But I hope that this was helpful. There's a lot to think about all the time in The Last Guardian about analyzing, you know, how Trico is moving and how he's behaving, that I couldn't possibly talk about it all at one time. So a little bit of it is you just have to get used to Trico. You know, you have to play, you have to experience him and understand what he's saying. But I hope that what I was able to show here about why I'm doing the things I'm doing and what I'm thinking about was at least helpful to get you going and to get you into some pretty competitive times for Last Guardian any percent. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'm on Discord, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere, all as SableDragonRook. And my DMs are open, so, you know, feel free to send me messages. I will do my best, I suppose, to try to mute those sections where the background just decided to play videos for some reason, because I'm sure that blasted your ears out, and I'm sorry for that. I did not intend for that to happen, so... Anyway, this has been The Last Guardian full speed run guide for the any percent route, based on the tech that is currently, you know, in the run. So, hit me up with any questions. I hope you found it helpful. Stay safe and have a wonderful day. Thanks!